Hello and welcome back to another episode of Creating Madness Live. I am your host, Ethan Carboni. We may have a potential another co-host on this. I am not exactly sure, but we shall see. We have a shorter episode planned for y'all tonight. We are going to be going over the latest Bracketology by, I believe this is Joe Lenardi's, which is the usual. So this will be a lot of fun to do. We have a field of 68, which I will be talking about the entire time, of who I believe will make it and who will not. This is going to be a lot of fun, as we will just start out with the first four buys, the last four in, the first four out, and the next four out. Starting with the next four out: Notre Dame, UAB, SMU, and VCU. These teams have all had a couple ups and downs this year. SMU has been one of the most talented teams in the country at times. Same with UAB. UAB originally predicted to win the Conference USA, could not get it done. SMU could not win the American. We knew that going in. That is going to be tough. You had Houston, Memphis. Memphis fell off. UCF's been strong. So we shall see. SMU will need to have a strong, little less than half of their conference season. First four out were West Virginia, Oregon, Mississippi State, Florida State. 4 Power 6, Power 5 teams that have, for Oregon, mainly disappointed. Top 15 team preseason. They got a couple big wins, but they have not been it all year. West Virginia, Taz Sherman is incredible, but he is going to have to carry the life out of this Mountaineers team. Mississippi State and Florida State. Mississippi State's on the rise. Florida State always manages to get it done. I'm not too afraid for them. Last four in. You have San Diego State. You have Florida. You have Creighton. And you have Wyoming. Wyoming has been the absolute most entertaining team to watch in the Mountain West. Later tonight, they play Boise State at home. So it's between Wyoming, Boise State, San Diego State to win that Mountain West Conference. And San Diego State and Wyoming, two very good teams that any team, Power 5, Group of 5, whatever, would be afraid to play in the tournament. Florida barely beat Missouri the other day. Obviously, this bracket came out a couple days ago. So, Florida, without Colin Castleton, as of right now, they have a lot of work to do. I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head when Colin Castleton's coming back. But if you're Florida, you need as many wins as you can get because you're right there on the bubble. Then the last four buys, you got two teams which we've been very familiar with on this channel. Loyola Chicago, the Beast from the Missouri Valley, who actually are going to end up going to the Atlantic 10 next year. And then you got San Francisco, the West Coast Conference. There's a couple teams there that are good. San Francisco has been a dominant force on offense and defense this year. Then you got Seton Hall, North Carolina. Seton Hall, Bryce Aiken is going to be carrying the life out of them if he hits a good chunk of his shots and will actually shoot the ball over 50% of the time. And North Carolina, Armando Bacot, Caleb Love are going to have to do incredible. If Armando Bacot and Caleb Love can't get it done, then North Carolina's going to have a struggle making it through. If you are going to look into the round of 68, obviously this is just predictions, but for the 16 seed, you have Southern New Orleans. This game, we said last week when John was on here, does not, these 16 seeds round of 68, it matters in the sense of, yay, we accomplished something. However, if you're making it into the 68 team bracket as a 16 seed, or really, you're not it doesn't matter too much. Southern should beat New Orleans. New Orleans should beat Southern. I'd say Southern. I'm not sure. Moving into the next one, you have the 12 seed matchup in the round of 68 for the first four. Florida, Wyoming. And this really depends on Colin Castleton. If the Florida team can stay healthy, then I think that they would win. But Wyoming has been just so dominant. I mean, if you're Wyoming, again, you're playing for pretty much the conference tonight against Boise State. Boise State already beat you guys as we got Ben Hoyt on the stream. Ben, we already went through the first round of 68 game, which was Southern New Orleans. I know you couldn't care about that. But Wyoming, Florida, who you got?
Wyoming and who, Ethan? Sorry, you're cutting out for a minute.
Wyoming and Florida.
Oh, I got Florida. I mean, look, there's an SEC team against probably a mid-major team with not much experience there, so I'm going to take Florida.
See, I'm going to have to disagree because Hunter Maldonado and George Graham Ike have been incredible. As a sophomore, Ike's been averaging near 20 points. Londo, 19.4. I'm thinking right now, I'd choose Wyoming. Maybe that's just me wanting to choose Mountain West team, but moving into an 11 seed first four matchup, San Diego State, Creighton. You go first.
That's a toughie. I mean, again, I do like my Mountain West teams. I didn't like Wyoming there, but I do like the Blue Jays this year. They've been playing some ball this year, so I'm going to go Creighton out of the Big East, probably, in one of my top 5 conferences in all of college basketball this year.
For sure. And, I mean, Creighton is a very interesting team this year because if you are Creighton, you're in almost like a rebuild kind of year, I want to say. It's tough because you have to rely on Ryan Hawkins and Alex O'Connell for the majority of your scoring. You have your senior leadership in O'Connell. And the Blue Jays just, I don't want to say can't get it done, but if you're the Blue Jays, it's just such a struggle because you're going to have to go up against such a tough San Diego State team. I'd probably take San Diego State in this matchup, but I wouldn't be surprised if Creighton pulled away.
No, it's going to be really close. It's a really close matchup, for sure.
And, of course, this is just the bracketology, but Norfolk State, UNC Wilmington, the 16 seeds. UNC Wilmington, move on. Agreed?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would take UNC Wilmington over the best MEAC team any day of the week. They're a good team. I mean, they were on a downslope recently, but they're building their way back up, and I love them.
Yep. Then I said Southern New Orleans doesn't matter. You're going up against Auburn. If Auburn managed to lose that game, every single person in Alabama that's not an Auburn fan would clown Auburn for the rest of their existence.
Yeah, well, that's pretty obvious. I'm going to take the Auburn team over them any day.
Yeah, we don't need to move into any 116 matchup. We're just skipping.
Yeah.
Miami, Oklahoma. Miami's been on the rise this year. They've been a very talented program, even without Likes, who transferred to Arkansas. Who you got in this matchup?
Yeah, well, Miami has been on the build-up recently. They were, at one point when I went to go see them in Miami in person, they were one of the bottom teams in the ACC, only Wake Forest below them, and ironically, that was the team they're playing. But it's tough. I hate to pick against Oklahoma, but I'll take Miami because their coach Larinaga, he was the George Mason coach right before the Miami coach. He took George Mason to the Elite Eight, I believe. I mean, he is a really good coach. He knows what goes on in the tournament. They're on their way up. They're a hot team, and I'll take them over Oklahoma.
Yeah, Cameron McGusty's been a beast. I mean, as a senior, averaging 7.5 points for a Miami team where nobody expected what they've done. I believe they've beaten Duke, so that's a very impressive team versus an Oklahoma team, which also very impressive, but they're going to need to get their guys there from recruiting. Then moving in, Illinois versus, you say Florida, I say Wyoming. Who would you have winning an Illinois versus Florida battle?
I have Illinois. I believe me. We had this conversation today, but I don't think there's many people in this, college basketball, the entirety of the NCAA that can stop Kofi Coburn. He's just such a beast, and I think on its own, I think Illinois will win.
Agreed. I have them going against Wyoming, a team that doesn't have as much size as Florida and the size of Colin Castleton. Colin Castleton might have been able to slow Kofi, but Wyoming, I don't think would have the paint presence because I don't think many teams would.
Yeah.
And then you got Providence, Vermont, the Catamounts versus the Friars. The Friars have been the hottest team in the Big East this year. I believe they are atop the Big East as of today, right now, by 2 games. Who you got in this battle of the Northeast?
This is a toughie, actually. I love that conference. This is the conference with Albany, UMBC, Vermont, a bunch of teams that don't look good on paper, but just in the tournament go and ball out. I will say for Providence, they look like a hot team right now, but it all changes when you get to the Garden. The Garden can switch momentum like that. And I think it all depends on what Providence does in the Garden. If they keep winning, yeah, I'm going to take Providence. But if not, a little bit of a closer game, but just for time's sake, I'll take Providence.
Yeah. You see, my thing is with Vermont, they have their highest leading scorer, Ryan Davis, from Schaumburg, Illinois, 6'8" forward. Providence doesn't have that type of forward that can lock them up. However, they also have Ben Chungu, a guard, on Vermont, averaging near 15, a bit above 15 points. Providence is known to lock down the guard position very well this year. I'd take Providence in a heartbeat, just because any guard scoring would be completely shut down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving in to a matchup of 6 and 11, Xavier and North Carolina.
Really, North Carolina. I've never seen the day where North Carolina comes as an 11.
You'd think, right? I mean, once Roy Williams left, I'm not going to say the program's completely fallen off, but it's not trending in the right direction.
No, I completely agree. But I will say, again, same with Providence. Like, things change in the Garden. You remember Georgetown. They went and won the Big East tournament single-handedly, and they made the tournament just with that momentum shift in New York. And things can go the opposite way as well in New York. So this is tough, and you're facing a team like North Carolina who still has some pretty good talent. This is tough. I'm gonna go with the higher seed with Xavier.
I'll go Xavier just because I think Scruggs and Fremantle would be able to get the job done. My only problem is if Xavier can't shoot the ball from 3 and they have an inefficient day, North Carolina would swallow up all the rebounds and win. But moving into an interesting matchup, Jacksonville State as the 14, Michigan State as the 3. Jacksonville State atop the A-Sun, a conference that Liberty beat Bellarmine today to pretty much claim their part of the conference. And they're second in their conference overall right now. So,
yeah, I don't think Jacksonville State's going to be the representative at the end of the day. But let's suppose they are. I think they'll get swallowed whole. I'm going to take Michigan State.
Yeah, I agree. I think Liberty would get it done or Bellarmine would get it done, but Jacksonville State's beaten both of them. I just think that when the lights shine brightest for their conference tournament, that's when the teams are going to step up.
Hard to beat a team twice.
Yes, it is. And then moving into the Pac-12 versus Mountain West matchup of USC Colorado State. Colorado State's taken a little bit of a downturn lately, but you know what? So is USC. USC has been one of the most, throughout the season, been the most overrated team within the past 3 weeks at least. If we want to stretch back to day one, I could go on a tangent about 2 or 3 teams, but
well, for Colorado State, ironically, even though they're on a downward turn, this is an improvement because this is they're actually going to be in the tournament. I believe they were the first team out last year, or one of the first teams out. So that's a little bit of an improvement for them. But I still think USC is super strong. I mean, they have a ton of talent on both sides of the court, even though, both Mobleys are gone. I'm gonna take the Trojans.
Yeah, I think Isaiah Mobley going up against David Roddy, Isaiah Stevens, John Tanji. I I think that if you're USC, you have too many people to guard at once. I'd take Colorado State to beat USC here. I can see Colorado State could fall out at this rate. They're going to have to dominate the rest of their Mountain West schedule.
Yeah.
Then you move into Kansas and Longwood.
Next.
Yeah, Kansas. Moving into the East region, playing Philadelphia, Purdue, Colgate. If Colgate managed to win this, I would love it, but yeah, we know how that's going to go. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
next,
I will be there in Philadelphia, ironically.
Yep. TCU, St. Mary's.
Uh,
TCU has been on the upswing, same with St. Mary's. St. Mary's is one of the very few teams in the West Coast Conference that, if they have the best day ever, that they could beat the Gonzaga Bulldogs.
well,
Obviously,
absolutely. Yeah. No,
obviously they
absolutely.
have the best day ever, but
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, when I hear the name St. Mary's, a little bit of fear comes into my mind because if you're like a Gonzaga team once upon a time, you beat St. Mary's, you win the conference because that's the only team even close to contesting you. St. Mary's was top 25. Just even as short as 10 years ago. So, St. Mary's looks like they're on the upswing of their program again. Teams like San Francisco and Santa Clara can't keep up anymore with them. So this is tough, but I'm gonna go with I'll go with St. Mary's with the upset. Why not?
I think we both agree. Then moving in, you got Marquette and Iona.
Ooh,
Rick Pitino,
I love Rick Pitino.
same here. 18-3 this year, 10-0 in conference, and you're going up against a tough Marquette team. And I mean a very tough Marquette team. Like, if this was a lot of other teams, I would not have been able to choose.
No, I love Rick Pitino's team. They've beaten a lot of good competition, even some good main majors like Harvard this year. They've edged out. So this is a tough one for me, but I'm gonna go with Marquette just simply because they're one of the top teams in the Big East right now, and they're looking fuego.
I mean, when you beat Villanova twice, yeah, you're one of the best teams in the Big East.
Yeah, I did see that.
And Justin Lewis is one of the best young players in the country. Yeah, Marquette over Iona. It sucks. I think Iona will actually be able to trend up into a single-digit seed personally, but we'll see how they do.
Yeah.
Then moving into Tennessee and Drake. Drake
Yeah.
and Loyola will be back in this tournament again. Drake is a 13 seed taking on number 4 Tennessee. I think the seniority of Drake, along with Tucker DeVries as a freshman, very talented team. But you're going up a Kennedy Chandler-led Tennessee team. It's tough.
Yeah, I don't see much chance for Drake. I like the seniority of their team. I've always, when I used to be a host on the show, preach seniority in mid-major schools. But man, this Tennessee team is just full of ballers, including Kennedy Chandler. And I think it's just too much for Drake to handle, even though it'll be a very close game.
All right, moving to Texas, Davidson. Davidson, one of the top teams in the A10 this year.
No.
Going up against Texas, a team that in reality has been somewhat of a disappointment. But what's your take? Who you got?
Yeah, I saw Davidson play this year. They played my favorite team, and they didn't play that well, to be completely honest. Of course, it was start of the season, but I didn't see something that was like completely special with them, like I saw in a St. Bonnie's team or a VCU team that year. I don't like Davidson this year. I do like Texas. I think they're going to turn up for the tournament. Shout out to John Krevling, who wasn't here tonight. You'll be moving on.
You see, I'm probably going to say Hung Jung Lee, Fletcher Lawyer, get the job done for Davidson.
No, they'll lose.
Texas has the best defense in the country. If Davidson can manage to score at their pace, I think they beat Texas. And I think Davidson's very good at what they do with that. Then Villanova Wagner.
Next.
Yeah,
well, I will say, this is a down year for Villanova. The only reason that your team is even above water right now is Colin Gillespie is an absolute baller. I mean, if you're Justin Moore, if you're Slater, you need to step up because if you don't, you'll be out within the first 2 or 3 rounds for sure.
For sure. And I think that Villanova would manage to beat Wagner. I think it would be a close game, though. That's my take, at least. I think that if you're Villanova, I'd be scared to death about any team you play in that first round because everyone's hungry to upset what is known to be, within the past decade, the top dog in the Big East.
Yeah.
Moving in, Indiana, Murray State. Trace Jackson Davis versus a Murray State team, which might be better than the one John Morant was on. Who you got?
I mean, John Morant's an NBA superstar. It's hard to beat that. But I will say it looks like Murray State does have a great supporting cast this time around. It's not just Murray doing it himself. I do like Indiana. They just absolutely pummeled an uprising Penn State team at at the at their own arena, and I really think that IU is a team that's going to get hot entering March Madness. I'm going to take Indiana.
You see, I like Tevin Brown. Now, I like KJ Williams to ransack through the first round. And I think that Murray State would demolish Indiana. Moving into Duke Princeton. I know you want to talk about your Ivies. I'll give you have 1 minute from now. Just talk about Duke Princeton.
All right, so it's not Princeton's league. I would say there are 3 teams, that are really competing: Princeton, Yale, and Penn. And by the way, that third seed's now at the bottom. Penn's probably not going to make it, but they have been hot lately. Credit to them. Princeton's a really good team with Jalen Llewellyn. They have a great supporting cast, but the Ivies are having a down year. This is not an Ivy hype fest for me tonight. I think Ivies will be out in the first round. Duke's going to take it.
Ooh, thanks. You use less than a minute. That means we get more time. Gonzaga, Hawaii. Gonzaga beats them. Boise State, Arkansas. What do you think? I know I have my take. I already know I'm rolling with my Mountain State. I'll give my explanation after you go.
I mean, looking at this Arkansas team play Penn this year, they looked scary. I mean, absolutely scary. The only one I saw that was scarier was FSU, and you saw how they became. They haven't panned out too well. I will say Arkansas is going to have themselves a time in the tournament. They're one of my sleepers this year. I got the Razorbacks.
See, I think they might need another year, but you have Abu Kignab. I probably pronounced that completely terribly. But Boise State is an incredible defensive team. Boise State beat Wyoming already, who has potential to go far in this tournament. They play again tonight. And if Boise State can complete the season sweep of Wyoming, I think that proves a whole lot about where the Broncos belong. And moving into Ohio State Toledo, who you got?
Never sleep on the Toledo Rockets. I mean, I've done that a bunch of times and I've been proven wrong. They're a decent basketball team, but the Buckeyes, man. I mean, this is a good Big Ten team this year. I think I have the Buckeyes.
For sure. I mean, Toledo has been very impressive. The MAC has been interesting. What in the beginning of the season we all thought Buffalo was going to make a tear through it. Toledo has been damn near unstoppable. Them and Ohio are battling out for the first spot for the MAC. Then Texas Tech, South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits have been on fire this year.
Yeah, sleeper team for sure. It's weird. I think Texas Tech is going to have to get adjusted without their new coach and without their old coach Beard. And I think South Dakota State's such a hot team in the tournament. I think Texas Tech is going to sleep on them a little bit. I got the Jackrabbits.
See, they already beat Beard 2 days ago, which I was very happy about. I love to see Texas lose. Who doesn't? Especially when one of your friends is a Texas fan. It makes your life just that much sweeter.
Yeah.
So, you have a Texas Tech team, which has been surprising to say the least. They were originally projected 4th in the Big 12. However, this team managed to pull off some upsets, managed to stay in the top 25 and just play all around solid basketball. And I'm all here for it. I'm riding the Red Raiders train all the way that I can make it. I think that they beat South Dakota State handily.
All right. I see your point there.
Moving in, LSU versus San Diego State or Creighton. I have LSU versus Creighton. Not Creighton. I have LSU versus San Diego State. You have an LSU team which has been falling down a little bit due to injuries. Realistically, this LSU team can make it as high as a 2 seed if they pretty much can compete in the SEC tournament before losing to Auburn.
Yeah, it's interesting. This team is full of injuries right now. Hopefully, they'll get some players back before the tournament because there's a lot of time between now and then. Um, but this is tough. I'm going to take LSU in this matchup.
You see, I want to take LSU so bad. This San Diego State team can have practically no offense. They were held to 37 by Boise State. LSU has a good defense too. I'll take LSU, but I wouldn't be surprised if San Diego State pulled off a major upset here. Then moving into a 3-14 matchup, which I love, you have Wisconsin versus Oakland. Oakland, there are 3 teams in the Horizon League which are projected, which can win the thing. Let's be honest here. No one else besides Wright State, Cleveland State, and Oakland can win. Greg Kampe has led this Oakland team to be better than me and John thought. We thought that they were going to be just maybe above, like a few games above 500, maybe like in that top quarter of the conference. They've been surprising in a great way. This Oakland team has so much power to it, and then you're going up against a Wisconsin team with Johnny Davis that he got majority of his points from free throws against Illinois last night. So I'll let you say who you'll take first.
They're surprisingly like the NCAA, the 2018 Penn team which made the NCAA tournament. Surprising, didn't have a lot of expectations going in, and then when they get to the tournament, the magic runs out. So I'm going to take Wisconsin.
Yeah, Jamal Cain and Oakland. I feel like if you're not against Wisconsin here, if you don't have to play Johnny Davis, I see no reason at all for Oakland not to pull off an upset against a lot of the teams in this bracket. But just going up against Johnny Davis says so much. Like, if we saw, I don't know, if Alabama manages to get to that seed, a 3 seed, and they got to play Oakland, I'd take Oakland over Alabama in a heartbeat. But moving into Iowa, Seton Hall. Seton Hall falling down a tiny bit. Same with Iowa, Keegan Murray. When he doesn't play good, the Hawkeyes don't play good. They lost to Penn State on Monday. Iowa, Keegan Murray is going to be the only reason they win a game or lose a game.
It's very true. I mean, they survived a couple overtimes against Penn State, but eventually fall to them, which we are, baby. But I will say that Seton Hall is also a really good team. They have a ton of talent in the front court, including ex-Harvard star Bryce Aiken, who's been balling out. You just have a lot of talent on that Seton Hall side, and I don't think Iowa's quite ready for the tournament yet, especially losing to an up-and-coming Penn State team, but not a great Penn State team. So I'm going to go Seton Hall.
Yeah. Having Jared Roden, Bryce Aiken as your 2 leading scorers, it's going to be deadly because you're going up against a senior, potentially going up against a senior-led backcourt. You have high-scoring fast guards versus Keegan Murray in Iowa. Iowa can shoot the ball very well when they choose to. However, I take Seton Hall just because I feel like they'd be able to force Keegan Murray into less than 40% shooting.
Yeah.
Moving in, UCLA, Seattle. Who you think?
Is this even a question?
Never know.
Never know. I'm gonna take.
How many times have we seen a 2-15 upset? Oral Roberts over Ohio State.
Believe me, I know, but not like this UCLA team. Not like this UCLA team. I mean, Johnny Juzang is an absolute baller. I mean, I thought Chris Juzang was the only one I would see on an NCAA court, but no. I mean, his brother is 100 times better. I mean, I'm going to take the Bruins.
And then Baylor versus UNC Wilmington. If Baylor does not win that game by 25 plus, I'd be sad.
Yeah, but that's probably your strongest. What is this? A 116 game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably your strongest 16 seed in the tournament.
Here's the thing. That's the play-in. You're seeing Lenardi say that's going to be one of the weaker ones.
Yeah. I still think UNC Wilmington's pretty strong as a 16 seed. But still, I mean, you have to beat them by 20 plus. It's a 16 seed. You can't do a Virginia and let a 16 seed push you over. But, I mean, I would not, sleep on UNC Wilmington. I mean, you got to play them. So, yeah. I'll go Baylor with that.
Wake Forest, BYU. Wake Forest has been very impressive this year. I don't think anyone has expected Wake Forest to do what they have done. And BYU, Alex Barcello, when he does not shoot well, they do not win. Or, correction, they'll barely win. Who you got here?
I mean, the Demon Deacons have been red hot lately. I don't think this is really a contest. I'll go with Wake Forest.
Alondace Williams has been a baller. 19.6 points, 6.9 boards, 5.3 assists, shooting over 50% from the field. I don't know how you could pick against him in the first round, especially against the BYU team that really is, it's hot and not. Moving into Alabama versus my favorite mid-major team, Chattanooga. Who you got?
Next question, please. I'll take Alabama.
All right, Chattanooga for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I already explained last week. Chattanooga is my favorite mid-major team. Although they suffered a bad loss yesterday, they're going to have... The Southern Conference is really, really interesting. Because you have, give or take, I don't know, 4 teams competing?
Right.
I think Chattanooga, you just have so much power in your guards, and then you have Silvio D'Souza, Kansas transfer. I think that you're going up against an Alabama team, which lost to an Iona team, lost to a couple teams that they probably shouldn't have. I see no reason why Chattanooga is not one of those. And then Houston versus North Texas. North Texas, Conference USA, they're doing very, very good this year. They beat Purdue last year as a 13 seed against a 4 seed. Could they beat a 4 seed 2 years back-to-back as a 13? What do you think?
No. No, just plain simple. I mean, Houston is one of the most athletic teams I've ever seen on a court. I mean, the high flyers they have is just remarkable, and I think they're just going to out-athletic this North Texas team.
I see where you're coming from. In Houston, you have Marcus Sasser, who got injured early in the year. But then you still have Kyler Edwards. You still have Josh Carlton. Everyone's taken that next step. You're averaging 76.8 points a game. You're averaging near 77. I think against a strong defensive North Texas team, you would very well be able to win. It's just a matter of you're without your best player. You have been, and you've been dominating. When it gets to tournament time, I think every single seed, once that bracket comes out, the lower seed coaches figure out the one weakness if they other opposing team has one, and they do their absolute best to exploit it. Then you got moving into the 6-11 seed, UConn versus San Francisco. UConn, a very hot team this year. San Francisco, the same at one point. Who you got?
Over the past couple of years, San Francisco's had some pretty big upsets, but I will say this UConn team is just built different this year. They're really on the uprise compared to recent years, and I think they are back to possibly building their way up to be a blue blood again.
I mean, R.J. Cole, Tyrese Martin, Adama Sanogo, all beasts. I see no reason why this UConn team would lose this game. Obviously, San Francisco is a very good team. I just think that if you're looking at it from the lens of it's UConn, they should win. And
Right.
then moving into Arizona Weber State. Arizona plays UCLA tonight. We'll see how the hell that goes. I mean, UCLA without Juzang tonight, so Arizona hopefully could get the win. We'll see. You're going up against Weber State.
Yeah. I got it.
This isn't a Weber. This is a talented Weber State team. This isn't a terrific Weber State team.
Right.
If you
No.
catch my drift.
No, I get it. No, it's not the Weber State team with Dame Dollar. No, I got the Wildcats in this one. They're a stronger team.
All right, Iowa State, Loyola Chicago.
Oh, that's tough. I got the Ramblers. They look amazing this year. But I think they're going to be, again, another hot team in the tournament. I mean, they're really high in the RPI rankings earlier on in the season. I think they're going to get hot in the Missouri Valley, and I think I'm gonna take Loyola Chicago.
You see, you have Loyola Chicago versus an Iowa State team that was not projected to do well at all. Projected dead last in their conference to start the season. They've managed to be ranked. Isaiah Brockington, Tyrese Hunter, Gabe Kalisher all have played phenomenally for the Cyclones. I'd very well have to choose the Cyclones to win this. Then moving in to the final Kentucky Appalachian State. Want to talk about Oscar Tshiebwe for a minute?
I'm gonna go with the Wildcats, but you can talk about it.
See, Oscar Tshiebwe has been the best rebounder this year. He had 60 offensive rebounds in the month of December. That was more than 4 teams in the entire country had that month. Oscar Tshiebwe will be able to single-handedly beat any team, but if held to a minimum, it's going to be tough because this Kentucky team relies on him so much. And then that's the end for the bracketology. We have 10 minutes left, if not less. Want to talk, who's your favorite to win March Madness this year?
Too early, way too early for me. I mean, there could be a plethora of teams that could win this thing. I know it's not going to be Villanova. They're just too. They just don't have enough depth. I think Gillespie is basically their whole team. This is really tough, really, really tough. I don't really have an answer for you yet because I think the conference tournaments are going to be really determining in my mind who's going to win March Madness. Because regular season and conference play, conference tournament play is just so much different. It's not the same thing. And especially when you go into a 20,000 seat arena during March Madness and Pittsburgh will all be or Philadelphia will all be as well, 20,000 strong, just going absolutely nuts and just everyone going out 100% intensity, no rest, no nothing. That's what's going to determine who's going to win in my mind. I don't have that right now because I need to see some conference tournaments first.
Yeah. See, like right now, Gonzaga plus 600 to win the entire thing.
No, they choke. They always choke.
Exactly. That's my thing. If you're Gonzaga, you have never won a tournament before. You've been to the Final Four a couple times. You made it to the national championship last year. Hell, this year's team, they were like highly talked about at the beginning of the year, as they always are. Once they get into conference season, nobody talks about them. Yes, Drew Timmy's been incredible. Chet Holmgren's been a little less than I expected, but you know what? I wouldn't pick Gonzaga. I mean, you have Auburn, Baylor, Purdue, Duke, Illinois, Kentucky, Arizona, UCLA, Kansas, Villanova, Texas Tech, Houston, Michigan State, Texas, LSU, Ohio State for like the top few options. I personally love Kentucky. I think that Oscar Tshiebwe is incredibly hard to stop on the defensive and offensive end. I do not believe that there's any big men besides maybe Purdue's duo of Travion and Zach Edey, maybe Kofi. It's just so improbable. I don't know who the hell could stop him.
I will say, I love the team with the number 311 defense in the country. Give me the Penn Quakers NCAA berth and then take it all the way. I'm just kidding. That's just my usual Penn little thing. But no, I'll go Gonzaga. I mean, Chet Holmgren's a beast, and I love Drew Timme. He showed out at the tournament last year. Um, of course, I would love to show my Penn bias here that they'll make the tournament, do this and this and this, but I'm not going to. I think Purdue's really strong, even though they had that really bad loss to Rutgers, and I really like Gonzaga. So those are my two really big teams to win the tournament.
So you're going with pretty much the favorite to win.
Yeah, because if you're the best, you're favored to win, and hence you do win.
All right. And then I saw in the comments earlier, Auburn is unbeatable. Here's the thing. Auburn has not yet been in the tournament with this type of squad. And as a 1 seed, they'll have a fairly easy route. It depends on who the 8 or 9 seed they play. It depends who the 4 or 5 seed they play in the round of 32, round of Sweet 16. Obviously, that's me assuming they win the first round. Who doesn't assume that they'll win against a 16 seed? All I know is when it comes to making a bracket later this year, I'm probably going to have Auburn out a round or two earlier than a lot of people.
I don't like 1 seeds to win. I whenever I do my March Madness bracket, and believe me, as you can probably tell today, I'm not the greatest college basketball expert in the world. But I will say that I hate the 1 seeds just for one analytical reason, is that they're favored to win. They have an easier path. They fall asleep and then they lose. I like my 2s and my 3s. Usually last year's March Madness was full of 1 seeds in the Final Four. But I will say that Auburn as a 1 seed, I don't think they're unbeatable. I think definitely a 2 or 3 can beat them, especially a strong 2 or 3. And I don't think they'll even make the Final Four.
Yeah, if I'm looking at Baylor, Auburn, Gonzaga, Purdue, the top 4 favorites right now to win it all, I'm just sitting here thinking, Purdue's proven they can be upset. Baylor's proven they can be upset. Gonzaga has been beaten before. Auburn is the only team right now that I'm sitting here and I'm looking at, and I'm just questioning.
Yeah, well, there's a whole lot of teams I'm questioning because we're not even at the conference tournaments yet. We have to see if the favorites pull out and win those tournaments, if a surprise team comes along. Because remember, we're using a model right now that's based on if the season's ended today and each one of those favorites wins the tournament. That's not going to be the case, especially, in a conference like the Ivies where you have 3 teams competing. The Atlantic Sun, you have a couple teams competing. Mountain West, things will shake up a lot.
Mountain West, you have 5 teams competing for that. I think that if we see Indiana and Ohio State fall off in the end of the Big Ten, I think that we see 4, maybe 5 Mountain West bids.
I mean, look, and even take a look at a team as like not to show bias, but take a look at a team like Penn State. If they go and ball out like Georgetown did in the Big East, they win their conference tournament, they're in. Things are going to shake up so much over the last few weeks and over the next few weeks, and it's just so hard to predict these round 1, round 2 matchups because we don't even know who the heck the teams are. Half these teams could change. It's just too early to predict anything.
Very true. And looking back at Auburn's season, they lost to Connecticut. They lost to UConn. UConn is a team that could go far in this. There's so many teams that I love that could do a whole lot of damage to anyone's bracket.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, UConn, making the move to the Big East was the right thing to do. First of all, you get some of your recruits back. No one wants to play in the American, like
Yeah.
or at least most people. If you're Houston, you'll get your recruits. You'll get those people to come. But if you're UConn struggling in the American, that's not a good look for you. Moving to the Big East, you get some good players, have a foundation to build on, and that's what they've really been doing. And I think that UConn's really going to be a team to watch. You listed some of the players earlier. They look really dangerous, really good, and I think this is the best UConn team we've seen in a long time.
For sure. And I think that's going to wrap up our show. Ben, thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out our socials at ATR Madness on Twitter, at _Creating Madness on Instagram. And good night, y'all.